Tonight on Joy News Prime, 15 lives lost in 2 separate accidents despite ongoing advocacy to get road users to be more cautious on the roads.
Master, we don't know where it is, exactly where it is. So when we came, we met the 2 cars and they already crashed and a lot of lives were lost. So immediately the accident happened, 11 people lost their lives.
But we were not able to open the door, so we had to go to the trunk, the boot we opened, and some of the guys were brought out there, but definitely the driver, there's no way that he's going to survive. And even some motor also came and ran into the car.
We'll be speaking with the National Road Safety Authority and road safety expert Cecil Gabra on what lessons could be learned from the 2 accidents. The Christian Health Association says there's been a sharp decline in cases of diarrhea and cholera thanks to the COVID-19 preventive protocols.
The most important finding on this assessment was the issue of diarrhea diseases, which was significantly low starting from March 2020 and has remained low up to now.
The Ghana Health Service, meanwhile, wants the progress made in fighting the pandemic in Ghana to be sustained.
Don't forget some of the innovative ways that we did and opportunities the pandemic has offered, despite all the challenges, including how all health workers and stakeholders in the country rallied together in solidarity to respond to the pandemic.
President Akufo-Addo reiterates his resolve to enforce the laws on illegal mining, but warns against unscrupulous allegations against government officials.
No subject or person should be above critique. Politicians, traditional authorities, policymakers, media, so-called influential people should all not be beyond your scrutiny.
In business, inflation holds steady in March at 10.3%, showing relative stability in the prices of goods and services.
Year-on-year inflation rate for the month of March 2021 stood at 10.3%. This is the same year-on-year inflation that was recorded for the month of February 2021.
Now, the Kaswa-based Muslim spiritualist has been speaking about how many young men approach him on how to get rich quick and also to seek help to win the hearts of women.
I just sacked them. Some of them will come because of girls. I don't know where they get those ideas.
My name is Israel Lai. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Founder for Studios at Kokomilmili here in Accra, on your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is the home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly is out to sanitize public toilets in the capital. The exercise to ensure the facilities maintain strict hygienic conditions will see environmental health officers embarking on surprise visits to the toilet. Accra Mayor Mohamed Ejay Soa warned operators of the facilities they risk being fined or jailed should they be found wanting. He spoke with Joy News' Faustina Safo on the sidelines of the launch of a guide on the safe management of public toilets in the capital.
The exercise, according to the Accra Mayor, will start in the next 2 weeks.
Public toilets are owned largely by private individuals, and even those that assembly owns management has been privatized, and there are just a handful of them which is still owned and managed by the assembly. Just to introduce some efficiency in terms of management and maintenance of it. But we've observed that its management is being done haphazardly without clear guidelines and protocols for anyone to follow. We'll visit the public toilet once to ensure that compliance. Prior to this, there's a committee that had also engaged almost all of them to look at their contractual obligations and walk them through some of these things already.
Ahead of the crackdown, AMA has been engaging public toilet operators, sensitizing them on hygienic practices. The Assembly has also launched a guideline on the safe management of public toilets in the capital. Arthur Florence Kukui is director of the Metro Public Health Department.
Public toilet operators, they are very, very important in the country, but nobody regards them as such. When you tell somebody I work in a public toilet, people look at you as somebody, which shouldn't be. So I decided to come out with this guide so that I will help them as they are producing service. They will do it in the right way, in an environmentally way and in an hygienic way, so that people who visit these public toilets, the public toilets will not be a source of disease outbreak, but they will be a source of releasing oneself from nature's call.
Meanwhile, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has begun investigations into the alleged dislodging of liquid waste into water bodies by some unscrupulous waste management companies at night.
In terms of waste management, especially with reference to liquid waste management, we are not doing bad at all, but there are some leakages. We've also had some reports from some individuals about the discharge of liquid waste sometimes during odd hours into open drains, and we continue to investigate, arrest and prosecute such individuals. It is not tolerable because currently, as we stand now, the treatment facilities that we have in Accra, the capacity of it is far in excess of the generation that comes up. So we have no excuse to dislodge liquid waste into any water body in Accra at all.
With the onset of the rains, Mayor Mohammed Ajay Sowa warned residents to desist from dumping waste into drains, adding the Assembly is doing its best to desilt drains.
We are doing our part, and we expect Ghanaians also to do their part. When you stop disposing of trash into the drains, I think that it gives us some comfort and assurance that when it rains, there will be free flow of the water into the Korle Lagoon and enter into the sea.
Faustina Safo, Joy News, Accra.
Now, COVID-19 has had many negative impacts on our health system. However, the Christian Health Association of Ghana reports that the deadly virus had some benefits after all. At a news briefing highlighting the findings of a study conducted by the association, Deputy Executive Director Dr. James Dua explained diarrhea has seen a drastic decline in rural health facilities in Ghana, while cases of cholera have so far not been recorded.
The most important finding on this assessment was the issue of diarrhea diseases, which was significantly low starting from March 2020 and has remained low up to now. Now, many of the health staff say that's one of the benefits of the COVID interventions. Hand hygiene has really improved diarrhea diseases. And it is instructive to know that throughout 2020, in all the facilities that we did assessment, there was no reported case of cholera.
On the average, if you take April, for instance, April 2019, the number of diarrhea diseases that were recorded were 2,000. If you take when COVID started in April, that's 1 month after COVID, the number was about 600. So the difference is about 1,400.
Conducted on 18 rural and semi-rural health facilities across the country. Dr. Dua says the decline is as a result of adherence to COVID-19 protocols in rural areas.
A campaign on prevention for COVID, i.e. using hand hygiene, mask masking, social distancing, had positive effect on reducing the incidence of infections, including upper respiratory tract infections and diarrhea diseases. Now, because of the large uptake of hand hygiene, if you go to most places, people are using hand sanitizers. People are washing their hands. Because of this, diarrhea diseases went down. In the past, I'm talking about immediate past, before the COVID, one will require that you observe respiratory etiquette. So use your handkerchief when you are coughing, or use tissue paper, or use your elbow when you are coughing. In the absence of this, one is required to now wear face mask from March 2021. While these were difficult, especially using handkerchief, tissue paper, or coughing into your elbow, use of face mask offers the needed protection. So from this finding, we know that hand hygiene, face mask use are intervention that we can use to reduce diarrhea diseases and respiratory tract infections. And I hope that all of us, health delivery agencies, will pick this up and embark on massive campaign even when COVID ends.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the Ghana Health Service has emphasized the importance of maintaining progress in the prevention and management of COVID-19. Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boakye says, though health workers and other stakeholders rallied around to fight the coronavirus menace, there are still lessons to be learned. The lessons, according to him, should include investment in healthcare delivery and integration, as well as equitable distribution of health facilities. Ohim Interior reports.
As at April 10, 2021, Ghana has recorded 91,477 confirmed positive COVID-19 cases, with 763 deaths. Daily case count has reduced drastically from over 700 in February to 67 cases currently. Director General of the Ghana Health Services, Dr. Kumar-Boakye, attributes the decline to several factors, including improved surveillance, testing, tracing and treatment, and the wearing of face masks.
We have initiated an important stage on the fight against COVID. That is building our own natural immunity to be able to fight the virus, that is vaccination. We have since the 2nd of March vaccinated over 800,000 Ghanaians in all regions of the country that they had their first shot. We should not forget some of the innovative ways that we did and opportunities the pandemic has offered despite all the challenges, including how all health workers and stakeholders in the country rallied together in solidarity to respond to the pandemic. Indeed, we should redouble all our efforts, as it is the only way to strengthen the foundation for more resilient, equitable society, a healthier, a more prosperous future for all. I believe that the lessons we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic underscore the fact that investing in health for all is not optional.
Speaking at the opening of a 3-day first ever senior managers meeting in Kumasi, Dr. Kumar-Boakye announced plans to renew the Ghana Health Services 5-year strategic plan for 2022-2026.
This strategic plan will prioritize in the medium term to reflect the priority needs of the service. The discussion focused on 12 key areas, and these will include mobilizing more resources, distributing it equitably, and putting in place systems for efficient use of resources. We are also going to increase collaboration with private sector to support financing and delivery of healthcare services. We are ensuring that staff are equitably distributed, well motivated, ensuring regional and district health services are fully functional, especially in the newly created regions. We are also to help establish model health facilities as health centers with comprehensive 24-hour service in selected sub-districts. We want to also establish wellness centers across the country and create new services to meet increasing demand for the population. We want to rebrand the GHS.
Meanwhile, Otumfuo's Hiahine, Nana Professor Ohene-Boakye Agyei-Wahene II bemoaned the inequitable distribution of healthcare resources.
The country is way behind in most basic indicators for sustainable healthcare delivery. There is severe imbalance between number of doctors to nurses, and our doctor-to-population ratio of 1 to 7,500 is way below WHO standards of 1 to 1,320. The country has 30 orthopedic surgeons for 30 million people. That's one orthopedic surgeon for 1 million people. It's impossible to take care of broken bones. Structural investments in healthcare delivery post-independence have not been comprehensive or integrated. The neglect of important healthcare facilities, lack of policy continuity, and relatively low healthcare spending, which is about 3.5% of GDP, for successive governments has led to inaccessible, inequitable, and generally unresponsive healthcare, particularly for the poor and rural communities.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimenteria.
Watching Joy News Runway, taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin. 15 lives lost in 2 separate accidents, despite ongoing advocacy to get road users to be more cautious on the roads.
And the other one was going to Kumasi. We don't know where it is, exactly where it is going. So when we came, we met the 2 cars and they already crashed, and a lot of lives were lost. So immediately the accident happened, 11 people lost their lives.
We'll be speaking with the National Road Safety Authority and road safety expert Cecil Gabra on what lessons could be learned from the 2 accidents. Do stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit. Now, 15 people have died in 2 separate accidents reported Wednesday. 12 of the fatalities occurred in an accident at Alipe in the Savannah region after a daft tipper truck loaded with sand crashed into a Tamale-bound Toyota minibus with about 18 passengers on board. A 9-year-old girl was among those who died on the spot. Salifu Abudu Hamda witnessed the accident.
When it was raining, so in our bureau house, when we hear the sound on the roadside, 2 lorry cars have crashed each other. One is the Nissan Ovan, and the other one is the tipper truck, which is from Yape. It was from Yape going to Tamale, and the other one was going to Kumasi. We don't know where it is, exactly where it is going. So when we came, we met the 2 cars, and they already crashed, and a lot of lives were lost. So immediately the accident happened, 11 people lost their lives, and the tipper driver, they sent him to the hospital. So this morning we heard that he also lost his life, making 12. And this is the main road. We complain a lot. Our Speaker of Parliament, it was on Thursday, that was 2019.
Savannah region correspondent Isaac Nonya joins us with the very latest on this accident. Now, Isaac, how are those accident victims who were sent to hospital faring? Hello, Isaac. How are those accident victims who were sent to hospital faring?
Yes, Israel, 4 of them are still under treatment, and according to medical doctors, they respond to treatment. One other person, one alligator, who was treated and discharged, is currently with the family somewhere in Tambale, while the other 4 are still waiting to be discharged later on when they respond to treatment, according to doctors.
All right, it's been suggested that there was a storm, and the storm may have contributed to this accident. What more can you tell us about that?
Truly so. Between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m. last night, the 2 vehicles were moving from the opposite directions, 2 opposite directions. Then the Toyota's minibus, when we listened to police, it was lighter, though it was carrying passengers. So when it got to the accident scene, it was like the wind overpowered it and then pulled it from its lane into the outer lane where the tipper truck was coming. So the tipper truck, when it was loaded with sand, it was grounded on the ground, on the road, and it was on its rightful lane going. But once the minibus found its way there, that was when the head-on collision happened. And then the casualties all happened on the spot. We were also told that visibility was a problem, because of which the windstorm, both drivers, the tipper truck or the minibus, could see what was actually coming from each direction.
All right.
So the moment this one veer off, the police said that it was a dangerous driving in the sense that none of the 2 drivers could see while they were approaching.
All right.
And that was what happened.
All right. Thank you very much, Isaac Nonya. Now, the other accident which happened at a traffic intersection near the Tesano police station involved a minibus that rammed into a stationary truck with a Togolese registration number carrying onions. 3 people are believed to have died. A rapid response team from the police and the ambulance service worked for close to an hour before they could retrieve the body of the driver, who was strapped behind the seat in the mangled vehicle. Kwejo Kunedu was one of the first persons to arrive at the scene.
I got there around 4:48 and I saw this yellow van. I just ran into the car, the truck, and I just gave them the highlight so to assist. But we were not able to open the door, so we had to go to the trunk, the boot we opened, and some of the guys were brought out there, but definitely the driver, there's no way that he's going to survive. And even some motor also came and ran into the car. Definitely it's because there wasn't any light, there wasn't any triangle, and there was nothing to warn oncoming cars that this is what has happened. So I'm sure that because of the darkness, the van didn't see this truck was parked there, so he just ran into it, and that's what happened.
And the truck didn't have any sign, triangles, and all those things?
There wasn't any, and even there wasn't any hazard lights on, there wasn't any triangle, nothing. So definitely that's why, and where it was parked is a curb. So I'm sure immediately that the driver got, it was late for him to brake, so he just ran into it.
Now, the latest accidents come on the back of the launch of the latest Joy News documentary highlighting the toll road crashes are having on the country's human resources and the need for something drastic to be done about it. Joining us via Zoom now is David Osafo-Adonting, Director Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority. He works with the authority that has the mandate to ensure the roads are safe. We also have Cecil Gabra. He's a road safety expert and Executive Director of Top Tech Transport and Logistics. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. And I'd want to start with you, Mr. Adonting. What does the authority understand to have happened in these 2 accidents and how they may have occurred?
Yeah, good evening to you, Israel, and then good evening to our cherished viewers. My greetings also to my good friend at the other side, Cecil. We all received the news this morning involving the crash at Tesano and the one also in the northern region. There's another one too that we had in Cape Coast, the central region, where a vehicle knocked down one student from the UCC. I think that, we're talking about possibly deaths involving 14 persons. If the central region should add up, then perhaps we are talking about 15 persons in just 3 crashes. I think it's very worrying. We have not taken this particular incident very lightly. It's come at a point where we, as a nation, we are discussing the crashes that occurred this year from January to March, where we have already recorded 771 deaths, which we said is unprecedented because it happens to be the highest in the number of years for now. And so whilst we are talking about it and looking at ways to prevent all these, then this morning's zone came to add up. Yeah, indeed, it is a serious problem.
Mr. Adonting, what I would want us to do with this is to look at the accident and see what lessons can be learned from the accident. So let's take the Alipe accident, for instance. The talk of a rain.
Coming to that, I want to look at them individually. Yes. Starting from Accra, because this is where we are. Your reporters have given clear reports on the incident. Tesano in particular was a disabled vehicle. And I think this is a story that we've discussed a couple of times in the past number of years. A vehicle truck that is broken down, and whilst the operators were trying to fix it back, a bus loaded with passengers from Kede also had to ram into them, killing the 11 people as we're talking about. So purely a disabled vehicle. And I'll come to disabled vehicles. The Tamale one is also talking about a head-on collision. And here, some of the factors that contributed to the crashes have already been enumerated by your reporter. The bus having a head-on with a truck. The weather was very bad, so in an adverse weather condition, you can imagine what could happen. So the bus veered off into the lane of the truck, and then it crashed. So a head-on collision there. So if you put all these together, you could see that we have a problem that relates with the individuals. I'm talking about people who sit behind steering wheels. There are rules and regulations governing the use of the road. And I think these are very clear regulations that we have been talking about all the time. My good friend Cecil has been on a couple of platforms with me. And we always come about the indiscipline on the part of our drivers. Here, I want to place the responsibility on the drivers who were responsible for the vehicles that were involved in the crashes. To be honest with you, the one whose vehicle got broken down, the truck, it is by law required that when your vehicle breaks down on a highway, on a road, you place advanced warning triangles at the front and at the rear.
All right.
At a certain distance that the vehicle that is coming or the approaching vehicle can see clearly and then maneuver before it gets to the situation that we are talking about now.
All right.
So on the part of that particular truck driver, I think he was irresponsible.
All right.
Clearly. Indeed.
Right.
We can also look at the one who came and rammed into the truck. I am sure he was on speeding. In fact, we are still investigating, but he is dead now. So it's difficult to actually find out exactly what happened to him. He might be tired, but he had come all the way from Kade. He was speeding, perhaps. Maybe the weather was also bad. So whilst investigations are ongoing, I think that we have picked that signal of the disabled vehicle. And this is what a couple of years ago, we started with an initiative for the private sector-led towing services, which Ghana, and I'm talking about Ghana, kicked against it, and we were unable to bring up this project to the extent that much as we did not also bring an alternative to deal with the situation is still with us.
All right. So I don't think that it was a case that there was no alternative. Yes, people kicked against it, but I believe there was an alternative. And Cecil Gabra is on the other line. I'll bring you in, Mr. Gabra. So let's start off with this issue of alternative to towing the vehicles. Yes, there was a road towing levy that came up, and there was a lot of hue and cry about it, and eventually it was scrapped. But there was an alternative. Was there not, Mr. Gabra? Or there is an alternative?
Yes, there is always an alternative. The general public said it shouldn't go to one company, it should go to all the companies that operate
towing
services. Yes. Okay, so that must be done. It shouldn't just go to one company. We all have to, it's business for Ghanaians. It should, that is why Ghanaians were against it, that it's time for us to expand it. But then, Israel, if you give me that opportunity to talk,
please go ahead. Go ahead.
I will say we are always talking about road crashes when it happens. I believe a lot more deaths have occurred without counting the numbers. Look at today, for instance. I don't think you mentioned 14. This is quite serious. I think it's really time for us to take pragmatic actions to save lives. This must come from the top. If I say from the top must stop, driving in the middle of the road and then all those issues that we talk about. We need to enforce the laws now. The airline that we have must work. The powers that be who intervene by calling the police must be ignored. They must stop this. Let the police work. We have wonderful police, and then we have the services of the National Road Safety Authority that can empower all these laws. Ghana can make a lot of money from fines to repair our roads and take care of road safety itself. Yeah. Some offenses that must be looked at immediately, and I believe Mr. Adontin will help us to stop the speed limits. The law gives that opportunity
for us to drive beyond 50 kilometers per hour not to drive beyond 50 kilometers per hour when you are driving in town. I'm talking about the speed limit, 80 kilometers per hour when traveling 100 meters per hour on the motorway. Is it really working? It's time for us to get Mr. Adontin's
to enforce the speed limits,
DVLA, to fix speed limiters and tachographs. I mean, if you look at the accident that happened this morning, I looked at it straight away and I said, look, this driver was not driving not less than 100 kilometers per hour. And that's, if you look at how the vehicle was mangled, you could tell, fine, a stationary vehicle and another vehicle going to hit it.
Yeah, Mr.
But all the same.
Yeah, I want to bring this in for your consideration, both of you. So it just so happens that this accident or this broken down truck, stationary truck, was right next to a police station, the Tesano police station. And eventually, after the accident, there was a tow vehicle that took it away. So couldn't we have taken away this truck before it killed innocent people?
Well, I think that Cecil and my good friend Israel, the police station, it could happen right in front of the police station, even within the police yard. Yes. The capacity now, it's not there. We don't have the capacity.
No, but I'm saying that eventually the vehicle was towed. So there was a tow vehicle that came for it. Couldn't that same tow vehicle come for it before?
Somebody must. It is somebody's. In fact, I tend to agree with my good friend Cecil. I think that we should begin now to stop talking about the problems. The problems we have over the past number of years. Discussed the problem a lot. The problems have been defined. In fact, in recent times, when multimedia, your own said Kwame Boateng, had to premiere the crash documentary, you could see clearly that the problems in Ghana, as far as road safety is concerned, clearly defined. So we should stop talking about the problems.
Noted.
Otherwise, it will end up becoming the talk shop once again.
All right.
We are talking about the same things all around. We need solutions now. I want to be part of the solution this time.
And the solutions rest, I believe, with the National Road Safety Authority.
Because 90% of the drivers that we have are all the cause. I mean, it is not the vehicle's problem. It is coming from 90% of the drivers.
Okay. So, thank you very much.
It's a human factor.
Thank you very much.
Drivers must be, for me, I'm into training now, so drivers must be requested to attend refresher courses at least once a year before even renewing their license in 2 years. Heavy duty drivers must also go through medical fitness. Some of them have been driving for more than 8 hours, and the stipulated time is drive for 4 hours. And now we even drive for 2 hours, take a rest. Everybody must come out from the vehicle.
All right. Thank you very much to you both gentlemen. David Osafo Adonting's Director, Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Authority, and Cecil Gabra, Road Safety Expert and Executive Director of Top Tech Transport and Logistics. Thank you very much. I appreciate your insights. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Still ahead, President Akufo-Addo reiterates his resolve to enforce the laws on illegal mining, but warns against unscrupulous allegations against government officials.
And welcome to business. Inflation remained unchanged in the month of March this year, registering a rate of 10.3%. Now, this is despite a significant jump in the rate in the non-food subsectors of housing, water, electricity and gas. We have more in this report.
The rate of inflation recorded for the period indicates a relative stability in prices of most goods and services for the month despite a slight increase in the annual basis. The non-food sector, for the first time since the rebasing of the Consumer Price Index, had a higher rate of inflation. Here is government statistician Professor Kobina Enim.
For the first time since we rebased our CPI in August 2019, we see housing, electricity, water and gas inching to a third as a contributor to overall year-on-year inflation. Indeed, the contribution of housing, water, electricity and gas is 29.7%, and this is the highest that we've recorded since the rebasing exercise in August 2019. We do further disaggregation on a month-on-month basis, and we see that housing, water, electricity and gas, and restaurants and accommodation services are the only two divisions that record a month-on-month inflation that are higher than the average for the period April 2020 to March 2021.
Meanwhile, Professor Inim has been responding to the contributions of the newly introduced taxes in the 2021 budget on the rate of inflation. According to him, any effect will be determined by accompanying government policies.
The challenge is our ability or inability to predict the extent and the dimension. What we should always bear in mind is that the implications of tax would not be operating in a vacuum. The implications of tax would have to compete with other government interventions. So how it's going to impact on general prices of goods and services will be determined by the net effect that would come from the other policies that are being put in place concurrently with the taxes that are being imposed. So yes, one would expect it, but it would be difficult to say the extent and the dimension by which it would impact on prices of goods and services.
The Greater Accra region continued to record the highest rate of inflation of 17%.
The Ghana Real Estate Developers Association is seeking support from development partners and government to undertake strategic initiatives to track down illicit financial flows into the housing sector. According to the Executive Secretary of GREDA, Samuel Megaibo, the real estate sector has become a safe haven for money laundering, a situation he describes as unfortunate for the housing industry. There is more in this report.
Ghana's housing industry is a real worry for industry players. Executive Secretary of GREDA, Samuel Megaibo, said the continued illicit financial investment in the sector is collapsing many genuine businesses.
If a money lender has money and is willing to inject it into a real estate business and is willing to give it to you at 5%, I'm sure you will be laughing and be smiling and you will run to pick such monies up. Whilst the commercial banks are lending at 24% and above, I mean, it is uncompetitive, and so it will genuinely kill, genuine businesses and suddenly allow illegal businesses or unknowingly businesses that are even illegal may be converted into a vehicle for illicit and terrorism financing activity. And before you say, Jack, all genuine businesses are collapsing, and this illicit, financing sources are creeping into the system and flourishing certain businesses. And then before you say, Jack, they have hijacked, the country.
However, Mr. Megaibo indicated that the association is working hand in hand with other stakeholders to weed out illicit financial investment in the industry.
We have been in constant engagement with the FIC. Last 2 weeks, that is from the 29th to the 31st of March, we were engaged full day for the 3 days at Alisa Hotel for the Giaba team in collaboration with FIC and GREDA to organize this workshop, 3 days workshop, that is to take us through the law and what is incumbent or what is required of us as practitioners. So as an association, we are already doing the sensitization. If you listening to me carefully, I told you that the act itself was in force from 2008. So about 12-13 years down the line, we are still in the sensitization period because we haven't done enough in terms of education for people to appreciate it. So at our level as real estate developers, we are committed to weed out this group of people. If we find them, we will not want to shield them. So we are doing our best to work with the law enforcement agencies to ensure that we don't allow such investment into our businesses.
The situation, if not well managed, could have adverse implications on national and regional efforts in combating money laundering and terrorism financing. But the association believes it can implement measures to reduce the canker if the necessary support, including funding, is provided. Nicholas Brown's report for Joy Business.
And that'll be it for Business Sports. Is up next.
Many thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Time to bring you the sports. My name is Hans Mensah, and Tamale, the capital of the Northern Region, has been without a Premier League club since 2013. The last Tamale-based club to feature in the Ghanaian top flight was Real Tamale United. My colleague George Ado Jr. has produced a documentary titled Tamale's Year of Return, 8-year cry for a Northern GPL representative. Louder. It airs on the Joy News channel tomorrow at 8 a.m., 2 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Here are snippets of that documentary.
"2013, the year many from Ghana's northern regions took for granted, but meant football wilderness and by a large stretch, a winding, complicated and an almost elusive plot back into the country's football elite. Real Tamale United went into the record books as the only side to be relegated from the Ghanaian top flight without winning a single game. The Northern Lions failed to clinch victory in 30 games as they drew 6, lost 24, and conceded as many as 69 goals and scored a paltry 20 goals. 34 years of producing real stars for club and country. You don't need a reminder. Mohamed Gago, 3-time Africa Footballer of the Year Bedi Pele, Hamza Mohamed, Anna Nikobo, Stephen Odro, amongst others, were the toast of football fans. The sight of the beautiful Aliu Mahama Stadium filled with fans watching Division 1 football for the last decade is a worry, from the cheap seats to the Tamale chief.
One of my daily regrets is the fact that there's no premier team in Tamale. Yes. So many of the opportunities are lost.
We have struggled over the years to bring in other teams, including Real Tamale United, to no avail. In fact, it has become a border to almost all sons and daughters of the northern region.
It's very, very worrying. It's very, very worrying because when you look around, I mean, look at it's because of the premiership clubs here in the north. The reason why these stadiums were put up.
You can't have this wonderful edifice without the Premier League. I mean, we did our best, try all that we can for the past 3 seasons. I mean, Tamale City, number 12 came and truncated everything, and then Almighty COVID took him.
We're missing a lot. We're missing a lot of opportunities, exposure. You know, the Ghana Premier League can bring a lot of exposure, so we're missing a lot.
As a footballer, it worries a lot because watching Division 1 matches, sometimes we come fed up with it because we've not seen the likes of Asante Kotoko, House of Hope, Dreams FC. We've not seen them for so many years.
It has felt so close yet so far every other year. Just believing that there will be a representative somehow in the Ghana Premier League. And there will be huge attention on talents in the north again. But the battle has remained a strange one. Wa All Stars, which remained the pride of the north in the torrid decade, was transformed into Legon Cities and now a club based in the south of Ghana, leaving the 4 northern regions totally shut out now. But there's a growing sense of optimism that this is the year of return.
One team from here, maybe next year we will be in the Premier League.
We want to do it this season.
Oh, if there's a region that deserves a representative in the Ghanaian top flight, definitely the northern region is up there. Let's still stay with football. And the Ghana Police Service has sent a strong warning to football hooligans in the wake of the recent violent conduct in some game centers in the country. There have been 11 violent attacks on referees since 2018. Here is Superintendent Sheila Abeye Bachman, Director of Public Affairs of the Ghana Police Service.
The strength of the police sometimes to provide the necessary security. The advice may come from the police, but the local organizers may want to negotiate for, say, lesser numbers of police officers or numbers that are lower than the recommended numbers by the police officers. Sometimes because of the resources that they will have to make available for that to happen. And so we should at all times have the open mind of seeking to adhere to the advice rather than having our numbers ready to negotiate, to limit the kind of security that the police will avail itself to provide at match centers. And where the advice comes that for one or two reasons, because you see, when we're going to provide security, we are not looking at security relative to the match alone. Sometimes there may be prevailing conditions in the community that could trigger incidents happening on the field. Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you have to negotiate hard before.
And that's it for sports. And of course, there is more at myjoyonline.com/sports. Over to you, Israel.
All right, thank you very much, Hans Mensando, for bringing us the sports. And let's look at My Joy Online. The story is making headlines. About 2,000 COVID-19 vaccines in Northern Region to expire on Friday. You may want to get to the website to read that story. Sprinter bus knocks down UCC level 100 student to death. This story has also been trending all day. And then Takrady murder, police places 10,000 Ghana cedi bounty on gunmen. And then Galamsey, I won't act on hearsay to deal with my appointees. That's President Akufo-Addo. And we have that story coming your way after at the top of the hour. And then truck crashed after knocking down two robbers on motorbike at Soweto. And Ekuapem Polo convicted over naked photo. That story, we'll be telling you a bit more about that on Showbiz. There's more news on the Joy News channel. Do stay tuned in. All right, time for Showbiz, and Becky Vex is here. Hello, Becky.
Hello to you, Easy. Right. How you doing?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. Okay. I'm not too sure that Ekuapem Polo is all right because she's been trending.
She can't be.
The whole day for the wrong reasons. And I think, I'm not too sure, but the only thing that might save her is when the test comes out.
The test comes out and it says
she's pregnant. But I'm not too sure, but that's the only thing, or that's the only thing we're waiting for.
You think somebody is going to be spared jail because they're pregnant?
Well, they might give you a beautiful room somewhere because you're pregnant. Yeah, so...
Beautiful room where?
I don't know. I have never been to jail before. So I can't tell. So that's the confusion. Yeah. So we're waiting for, say, the judge...
Well, yes, you're right. The judge may look at the pregnancy test, the outcome of it, and probably say...
Spare her.
Not spare, maybe mitigate the sentence. Mitigate, so she may get a lesser sentence.
So maybe 1 month. What? But do you think she'll... I don't know. So on Twitter, a lot of people are, saying that they should free Ekuapem Polo because Nam1 is, still... Yeah, I mean, when you go on Twitter...
relating it to Nam1?
I tell you, a lot of... Some people are also saying that Stonebwoy should have been in jail by now for pulling out a gun at the VGMAs and all. So there's a lot of conversation...
So all the offenses that should have landed people in jail, if they haven't landed them in jail, and so...
Yeah, so Ekuapem Polo should be free. We hope that you're pregnant somehow.
So what if she doesn't want to be pregnant?
So that she gets a beautiful room.
All right.
The ambassador to Ghana for Switzerland, does that make sense?
The Swiss ambassador to Ghana.
So, yeah. So there was a meeting at his residence earlier this afternoon, and he mentioned something he said something very interesting that, caught our attention, that he listens to Das Brejamina, and that's the only musician that he loves here in Ghana.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I like Da Sebre, yeah. I came across him when I had a dinner with my family, so I took out my mobile phone, I tracked him, and then the next evening, I think, for 2 hours, I was going through all his songs, and there are many more. But yeah, it's real interesting. Also, I like live music in general, and a live music concert in Ghana never comes without dancing. No, so it's really a feast, not only for the ears but also for the eyes.
Nice.
Okay, I was trying to figure out which song exactly he was trying to sing. Which of the Desiree?
I tried to figure out
exactly
what he was saying, but I couldn't. Okay. But we love him.
Yeah, we love him. So loving Desiree.
Yeah.
Who's deceased?
Yeah. May his soul rest in peace.
All right, thank you very much, Becky Bex, for bringing us showbiz. All right.
Time. Easy.
And we have more news coming over. Do stay tuned in. After putting his presidency on the line and nearly losing the wager on illegal mining, President Akufo-Addo's government has opened the books to share with its opponents the political cost of illegal mining. The National Dialogue on Illegal Mining brought together 16 identifiable groups, including leaders of all the major political parties, chiefs, religious leaders, to find solutions to 12 questions set to hold the answer to ending the menace, and they have 2 days to do so. President Akufo-Addo cautioned the political actors, particularly members of the opposition parties, to stop the unscrupulous allegations against members in his government.
It is because I want us to have a consensus on a sustainable method of mining the minerals in our land. We cannot have one part of the political divide campaigning for galamsey in the bush and the other waging an official fight against galamsey in the open. We must demonstrate that we love our land and are capable of taking care of it ourselves. We do not need foreigners to campaign for the protection of Ghanaian land, our inheritance. We do not need special interest groups to campaign for the protection of Ghanaian soil, flora, and fauna. It is the land of our birth. It is the land we inhabit. It is the land that supports our lands, our lives, and livelihoods. It is the land we named Ghana at independence 64 years ago. And we, the Ghanaian people, must be its best protectors of partisan politics. We must, however, come to the understanding that small-scale mining and the requirement to do away with illegalities in that sector should be beyond partisan politics. Government has a major responsibility to this end, as we are accountable for the stewardship of this sector, as indeed we are of all other sectors of national life. I am determined to enforce the laws on illegal mining, no matter the subject, high or low. I will, however, not act on hearsay or mere allegations without more. I will not hesitate to act, though, where the evidence is hard before the police, and I will do so irrespective of the standing of the person or persons involved. That is the true meaning of equality before the law. I urge this colloquium to be bold and forthright in its deliberations. In other words, say it as it is. No subject or person should be above critique. Politicians, traditional authorities, policymakers, media, so-called influential people should all not be beyond your scrutiny.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abu Jinapor laid out the issues to be addressed in the two-day forum.
The good people of Ghana expect this forum to provide answers to many lingering issues. For instance, Mr. President, how do we effectively regulate this industry? What reforms are required? How do we mobilize finances for the players in the industry? And what should be the role of the banks? How do we generate community support, including the support of our chiefs? How do we deal with the financiers of illegal small-scale mines who put young men into mining pits whilst they receive the proceeds of such criminal enterprises in the comfort of their homes and hotels? And in many cases, such persons never visit a mining site in their lifetime.
The small-scale mining sector contributed 36% to gold output last year and employs over 1 million people directly. Director of Finance with the Association of Small-Scale Miners, Francis Poku, says a more regulated sector will yield positive results.
The mining industry remains a key contributor to economic growth. Mainstreaming regularized small-scale mining enables us as a nation to maximize benefits from the mining sector to help fund developmental initiatives for the good of the general public. This is at the heart of the Chamber's thoughts as we continue to engage with small-scale mining for improved outcomes. For the past 3 years, small-scale mining is reported to have contributed an average of 36% of the national gold production. Although small-scale mining accounts for this estimated 36% of national production, the revenue obtained by government from the sector is largely from the large-scale and big mining companies.
The Kaswa-based Muslim spiritualist Sheikh Ibrahim Ya Latif has revealed many young men between the ages of 15 and 25 contact him on how to get rich quick and also seek help to win the hearts of women. He says his teachings are purely based on the Quran, hence he advises them to rather focus on their education. This revelation comes on the heels of the arrest of 2 teenagers alleged to be involved in the ritual killing of a 10-year-old boy. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report as part of our series highlighting the insecurity situation in Kaswa.
People are still shocked in the Kaswa neighborhood where the 10-year-old boy was killed. The woman I've met here claims one of the suspects had wanted to use her grandchild for the rituals.
I have a 10-year-old daughter. The 18-year-old suspect came to my house. I cannot tell lies. He came to my house to ask for water. I told him I did not have water. He sent my daughter to buy it for him, but she said no.
Her friend, who is here with her, says the 18-year-old suspect had bragged about how he was going to be rich soon.
He told me not to look down on him and that he loves me. He continued to say that he will be rich soon. He was wearing a red cardigan. I told him we are not peers because I'm 36 years old. But he said my age does not matter.
I'm now at the residence of a spiritualist, Sheikh Ibrahim Ya Latif, who lives very close to Kaswa. We sit on an animal skin with our legs crossed. He says his advice to his clients is purely from the Quran. Malam Ibrahim Ya Latif told me many young people contact him on how to get rich quick and also how to win the hearts of women. He says he encourages them to rather focus on their education.
Among some of the Malam who teaches, I teach the Quran, the meaning of the Quran in Hausa language. Young boys at the age of schooling, let's say from 20 years downwards, some of them at least from 15, between the ages of 15 going to 20. Yes, we get them, they do call us. Some of them will even come. If they don't come because of our girls, they will come because of maybe we want money. But those kind of people, if they come, the first advice that I give them is that, do you go to school? If they say yes, I say, concentrate on your schooling. Things that people do to get rich is not an adventure for you small boys. I just sack them. Some of them will come because of our girls. I don't know where they get those ideas. Some of them because of the movies that they watch. You understand? And normally you see at the age from between 15 to 20 years, it's an age that young boys want to try everything that they see.
Watching Journey's Prime, we're taking a break to bring you more business.
Well, in business, government has begun processes to procure 2 diesel multiple unit coaches for the railway line from Tema to Impacadan. Now, this is part of moves to ensure that the about 70-kilometer railway line begins operation by November this year. Chief Executive of the Ghana Rail Development Authority, Yao Owusu, disclosed to Joy Business when he took the Minister for Railways on a tour to inspect progress of work there. There is more in this report.
The railway line from Tema to Impacadan is progressing steadily despite few challenges encountered by contractors. According to the Ghana Railway Development Authority, the Ministry of Finance has approved for the purchase of 2 diesel multiple unit coaches for the purposes of this line from Tema to Impacadan.
We are working, to address them.
Have we started procuring coaches for them already?
Yes, my understanding is that this Section 2 coaches has already...
The Ministry of Finance has approved the purchase of 2 DMUs, which is diesel multiple units, to transport passengers from Tema to Mpakadan. Yes.
So when are they likely to enter into the country?
Most likely before the completion of this project in November, before November.
Meanwhile, the Railways Minister, after the tour, expressed confidence that the timeline of November 2021 will not be extended. John Peter Amewu also disclosed that he will begin formal discussions with the Transport Minister to develop an ultra-modern terminal and port at the terminating point of the railway line at Mpakadan near Akosombo.
They should be able to live up to that completion period. Progress is quite encouraging. At Mpakadan, you saw what we witnessed there. There was a bit of concern. What happened? What next? And it's important that we need to talk to my colleague, the Transport Minister, to have some level of collaboration to see what we can do quickly at the port of Mpakadan. Otherwise, it's a train to say nowhere. It's important that some activities is done there, which obviously falls within the Transport Ministry's area. So I have to discuss with him and engage him quickly. Because of this progress, completion, as I said earlier on, would be sooner than expected. And that port needs to be completed.
The visit also took the minister to the Kwamu Paramount Chief's Palace, where he paid homage to the traditional authority and also seek his blessings before the main inspection work. He called on the people of Kwamu and communities along the route to grant government the necessary support to complete the project, which is about 80% done.
With the support of the queens, the support of the chief and elders of this community, especially on the right of way and the corridor of where this railway line is passing, with your support, Ghana will become a shining star within the sub-region. What is interesting about this particular railway line is the fact that it's more of a continental railway line. It's running right down from Tema through Mpakadan straight to Burkina Faso. About 2 weeks ago, we were in Burkina Faso to have interactions with our counterparts. And that agenda for development and completion of this railway line is on course.
Paramount Chief of Kwamu Nana Odene Nkoufo Akutu III, on his part, requested all outstanding compensations be made to affected farmers and community traders along that route.
So I know by now all crops and buildings has been paid. We thank you very much for doing that work for us. I know we are now going to move on to land compensation. Nananum has realized that even though we are paying compensation for lands used, some of the lands were kind of leased to our tenants who has built properties and things on them. Some of the lands were given like 50 years, 70 years, 99 years. All we are saying is these kind of modalities should be worked out well so that the reversions can come back to the allodial owners of the lands.
He also called on the ministry to hold a stakeholder endeavor to engage the community on the importance of the project.
We leave. This is a summary of international business news. And that'll be it for business. I'm Charles Aite.
That'll be it for the bulletin for this evening. We have a special program coming up right after this bulletin. I'm Mr. Lai. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.